Many of the defectives are utterly helpless, repulsive in appearance, and revolting in their manners. Their existence is a perpetual source of sorrow and unhappiness to their parents. In my opinion, it would be an economical and humane procedure, were their very existence to be painlessly terminated. A.F. Tretgold's Textbook on Mental Deficiency, 1952. Jerome Legendre discovery of the cause of Down syndrome in 1959 opened the door to the field of medical cytogenetics. In standing up to the views of the scientific community, Legendre fought for the disabled. In 1862, John Langdon Down, a British physician, first identified Mongolism, which is today known as Down syndrome. He recognized that these individuals were different and gave them a name to be identified by. Individuals with Mongolism were considered outcasts in society. It was often expressed that they were a burden to parents. This condition was thought to have been caused by either an STD, the fact that the parents were alcoholic, or even that the parents were cursed. They were considered the idiots of the village. In the 1700s, scientists used them for medical experiments. In the early 1900s, disabled and crippled people were placed in institutions. Colonies for the disabled were established in rural areas separate from towns. The disabled children were isolated from the outside world and were most often treated under harsh conditions in these colonies. The concept of eugenics was introduced during the early 20th century. The goal of eugenics was to eliminate all people with imperfect traits to result in a stronger, healthier, and more perfect society. The disabled were viewed as defective members. The concept of eugenics was one of the main focuses of the Nazi Party. People with Down syndrome and other disabilities were one of the many groups of individuals targeted by the Nazis. They were among the first victims of the Holocaust. It is estimated that the Nazis killed about 250,000 people because of their disabilities, since they were viewed as unworthy life and useless eaters. Jerome Legendre was born on June 13, 1926, in Montreuil, a suburb of Paris, France. Legendre knew that he wanted to be a doctor from an early age. He grew up in a devout Catholic family. Legendre's faith guided him throughout his life in what would become his life mission. In 1952, Legendre began studying medicine and obtained a research position at the National Center for Scientific Research in France. Legendre began to collaborate with Professor Raymond Turpin, a French geneticist studying Down syndrome at the time. After working with Turpin for a while, he decided to shift his medical career to researching Down syndrome. That same year, he married Bertha Brinsted, with whom he would have 5 children. Legendre began analyzing the cells of people with Down syndrome and studying their chromosomes. Chromosomes are an organized structure that contain most of a person's DNA and are located inside cells. Most people possess 23 pairs of chromosomes, but Legendre discovered that people with Down syndrome have a third copy of chromosome 21. This is commonly referred to as trisomy 21. And so in 1959, Jerome Legendre was the first person to count the 47th chromosome in his patients, whereby discovering trisomy 21 as the cause of Down syndrome. This gave a logical explanation for the disability. Before Legendre's discovery, scientists thought that it was impossible for genetic and chromosomal abnormalities to be the cause of disease and disability. His discovery created a new field of medical cytogenetics, the study of inheritance and the relation of the structure and function of chromosomes. There followed a flurry of papers on chromosomal abnormalities in human disease, especially congenital defects in cancer. The new field of cytogenetics caused scientists to study chromosomes, which resulted in the discovery of connections between chromosomal abnormalities to disorders such as Turner syndrome, Angelman syndrome, and cystic fibrosis, among others. Today, Legendre is considered the father of modern genetics. A short time after discovering the connection between the extra chromosome and Down syndrome, Legendre diagnosed the first case of Cri-du-Chat syndrome, which is a chromosomal disorder caused by a missing particle of chromosome 5, resulting in intellectual disability and delayed development. In addition to these discoveries, Legendre described 18q syndrome, the DR phenotype, and also identified trisomies on chromosomes 8 and 9. After his discoveries, Jerome Legendre opened the first clinic specializing in Down syndrome, where he had over 9,000 patients during the course of his career. His clinic helped parents of children with Down syndrome because they felt that someone was there to support them, whereas other doctors were rude and dismissive toward their children and their conditions. Over the years, Jerome Legendre developed a deep connection with each of his patients. Parents were grateful that someone finally saw their child for who he or she was. Numerous parents have said that it wasn't until they took their son or daughter to Legendre that they themselves finally saw their own child, not the disease. Quotes from his 21 Thoughts, a list of thoughts on Down syndrome and the medical community, shows the compassion he had for his patients. He says, "Hate the disease and love the patient. That is the practice of medicine." Legendre became an internationally known and recognized geneticist for his work. He lectured around the world, informing people about his discovery and the new importance of genetics in medicine. Lejeune received the Kennedy Award in 1962 for his discoveries and research in intellectual disabilities. He received the first chair of fundamental genetics at the University of Paris, became a committee member of the French Genetics Society and the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, among other organizations. In 1969, Lejeune received the William Allen Award, the highest possible honor for a geneticist. At the ceremony for the award in San Francisco, California, he gave his speech entitled On the Nature of Men. In this speech, he took the opportunity to address the developing idea of aborting a child because tests had shown that they had the chromosomal defect that would result in the child having Down syndrome. Lejeune challenged the National Institute of Health, calling it the National Institute of Death, due to their belief that society should dispose of newborns not reaching minimal specifications of normalcy. As a result of his close connections with his patients, he believed that it was wrong to abort a child simply because they had a chromosomal defect. Many scientists in the audience and around the world disagreed with Lejeune. This speech marked the turning point in Lejeune's career. Dr. Lejeune was aware of what this speech would cost him. Later that day, he wrote to his wife saying, "Today I have lost my Nobel Prize in Medicine." A few months later, on a popular news show back in Paris, a panel was discussing the issue of aborting children after tests predicted they would have Down syndrome. One of the panel members remarked that these abortions would be preventing an infection of society, and all children with Down syndrome should be eliminated. The next day, one of Dr. Lejeune's patients with Down syndrome came to him crying. He had seen the television program, and the boy said to Lejeune, "They want to kill us. You've got to defend us. We're just too weak and we don't know how."
It's very possible to predict that a child has a disease, but you cannot predict what would be the importance of that particular person to his parents and to the society.
Lejeune dedicated his time to defending his patients by appearing on news programs and giving speeches on their behalf. Lejeune's campaign to save the lives of the disabled devastated his career. He and his family received threatening phone calls. They also witnessed the graffiti, "Kill Lejeune and his little monsters," and "The work of a neo-Nazi, the sinister Lejeune," painted near his home.
He took a very unpopular and very courageous stand against the whole issue.
For the rest of his career, Jerome Lejeune continued researching for a cure to Down syndrome. Because of his unpopular stance on abortion, Lejeune went without a promotion or pay raise for 17 years. Eventually, the funding was cut from his research and he was required to close down his lab. He found that when the door to the scientific community was slammed shut, the door to the Vatican opened. Pope John Paul II, a good friend of Lejeune's, appointed Dr. Lejeune as the first president of the Pontifical Academy for Life in 1993. However, that same year, Lejeune was diagnosed with lung cancer.
He was anxious about his patient because he thought that they will believe that he abandoned them. And I said to him, they will understand. They understand better than us. And he answered and he said, no, they don't understand better than us, but deeper.
Jerome Lejeune died on Easter Sunday, April 3, 1994, surrounded by his loving family. The Jerome Lejeune Foundation, founded in 1994 after his death, is an organization whose mission exists to raise funds for the research, care, and advocacy of people with Down syndrome. These are the very principles upon which Lejeune built his career. The foundation donates money to over 60 research teams across the world. The research continues Lejeune's efforts and works towards the goal of finding a cure or treatment. The funding of this research has proven to be effective. Research has shown that trisomy 21 and Alzheimer's disease are connected due to the proteins a gene in the extra chromosome produces. According to Genetics in Medicine, recent advances show that it might soon be possible to create a treatment for Down syndrome once the genetic and molecular basis of the disability is solved. This discovery will improve the lives of children with Down syndrome, their families, and communities around the world. Lejeune's discovery gave a logical explanation for the disability, and people with Down syndrome are treated better and have been integrated into society over time. His discovery has changed the image of Down syndrome. Currently, Jerome Lejeune is in the process of becoming a saint for his work defending his innocent patients. Many in the Catholic Church are working towards the canonization of Lejeune. He has passed the first 2 steps to becoming a saint and is moving forward in the process to becoming beatified, the last step before canonization. Lejeune's campaign to save the disabled cost him his reputation, but he knew that standing up for the disabled was more important than recognition in the scientific community. Jerome Lejeune's love for his patients shows how dedicated he was to the truth of medicine. Every patient is my brother.